All right, we're on. Today we're going to record a little video about the seller's flow. So the seller's process, will do a mock presentation. We're going to be role playing with Brady here, going in and out of role playing as well as recording. You guys, there's too much psychology in what we do, or what we should be doing is using a bit of psychology. So I want to give you guys those psychological points, talk about some different pointers I've learned over the years from different looks I've been given, and different things of that nature. So first and foremost, we need to understand what the just breaking down the basis of a seller's presentation. I've heard it called a 4-part, a 5-part seller's presentation, somewhere in there. But here's my flow, and I've got to start introducing some of these videos with, there's more than one way. There's more than Brewster's way to do this. So as you guys have different classes and different things come out with different listing presentations, take them, learn from them. My way is not the end all be all, and another trainer's way is not the end all be all. You're going to have to figure out what fits you. I was talking to somebody else the other day, and they were amazed at how many different answers that they were receiving from asking different agents the same questions. And now that I've been doing this for a little while, I used to be amazed too, and I'm no longer amazed. The reality is what Caleb chooses to do or Erica chooses to do, it may not be as effective for me, because I don't understand like the psychology of why Erica is putting that question where Erica's putting that question. So if I don't know the psychology around it, I'm not sure if I'm going to deliver it well, or if I deliver it, but I put it in a different order, then maybe that's why it's not as effective. So everybody's going to have their different tweaks. So this is mine today. But my consultation is more of like that 4-part consultation is what I call it. But I sandwich the 4th and 5th thing together. I like my people, my clients, I like when I sit down with people and I make a presentation very bite-sized for them. So my flow is intro. Intro is super, super, super important to me. There's a lot of psychology behind the intro. The second thing that I do is I do a nickel tour around the home. And then I do the CMA. I do the seller's flow chart, or the seller's process. And the seller's process, I couple that with contracts. So I call it a 4-part presentation. I call it a 4-part presentation, but it's because I kind of couple my, like the flow of how the seller's presentation will work and operate with the contracts themselves. And I'll hopefully we'll get to the end of that and we won't go over too much of the CMA. So Brady, thanks for being my guinea pig, man. So when I get to Brady's house, through Zoom, it's a little different. But when I get to Brady's house, I've learned to take my shoes off outside of the door. Now, I don't take my shoes off and then knock. I knock, and then as soon as they're open up the door and I say, hey, it's Bruce, we had an appointment at 12 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock. May I come in? And they say, yeah, sure, Bruce, nice to meet you. Come on in. I will start to take my shoes off outside. There's different cultures that take their shoes off outside. There's different people that do that. And so I wait for the permission to basically go ahead and walk in and either keep my shoes on or take them off at the door. If somebody tells me to take my shoes off, or somebody tells me to keep my shoes on, it's no big deal. I'm gonna look around their house. Too many types of personalities look at you as the professional. Well, not too many types, that sounds wrong. You want them to look at you as a professional, but too many types, look at you as a professional. And if they tell their kids to take off their shoes, but they told you to keep yours on, just to make you feel more comfortable, I do a quick glance around the room. What do I see? Is it clean? Is it new carpet? Is it freshly done? Did they prepare for this meeting and want to have their home presentable to me? I take my shoes off. If they say keep your shoes on, I look around and it's full of dog hair and crumbs and kid stuff everywhere and just gross, I'm keeping those things on. So use your judgment call, but it's being aware. And I tell you, the more you're aware in this intro phase of you getting to know this person, the better off they will perceive you, your message, your thoughtfulness. Those types of things go a long way when you do this intro. So thank them. Brady, we have let's just role play here. We have an appointment at 12 o'clock, man. It's 12 o'clock. May I come in?
Absolutely. Welcome, Bruce.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming out.
Oh, hey, no, Brady, the thanks is all mine. You see, there's a lot of people that just believe that, we can just put a sign in the yard and get your home listed on the MLS. And the reality is that I need to thank you for allowing me to come over today, because sitting down with you and going over everything that the market's doing and how this process works is going to save us countless hours of headache and time over the phone and emails and back and forth and the unknown. You see, Brady, I don't know, but you seem to be a lot like me. I don't think you want to go into this situation with too many unknowns, correct?
Definitely.
Awesome. So I appreciate you having me come over, man. Is there a table, or is there some place that I can set down my stuff so that way we can chat here soon?
And then dining room table, whatever.
Awesome. So what I do here, guys, you got to thank them for having them come over. Make them understand not everybody welcomes this, and that it's very important that you do so. When you talk to them about that, what you do is you start to raise a little curiosity. Why is Bruce so thankful that he got to come over? Like, isn't this just part of the process and what we do? It causes curiosity. What does curiosity do? It causes them to listen more. When somebody's curious, they're much more open to the idea of figuring something out, which means they're much more focused on listening. So that's why you really want to hit home on that. It's not just, oh, thanks for having me over, Brady, right? I mean, that's important, but it's getting them into that mode. The next thing is do you have a place that I can set my things down? I want to make sure that we have a place to, chat around. What I'm looking for is a tabletop, a kitchen table, a bar top with stools. The last thing I want to do is lounge back in a recliner or a couch and have a coffee table in front of me. You're sitting there like hunched over for an hour trying to like work on your laptop or trying to present something. It makes it awful. And here's the reality: when they're comfortable, it's their own home. So if they go and sit in their recliner, their chair, that's where they're the most relaxed. This is a major, major, major thing they're doing in their life. As much as I want them to remain calm, I don't need them to be relaxed. Relaxed means they stop listening. So you negate everything you just did by telling them why it's so important they're meeting with you, right? So at all costs, all possibilities, make sure you have a place. Sometimes, you guys, it's inevitable. People's dining room tables become their clutter all. They don't have a bar top, and you're sitting in a living room. You got to do what you got to do. I have already gone and just grabbed a kitchen chair from the dining table that we can't sit at and brought it into the living room to sit beside wherever they're at. So that way I'm not far away. So that way I can show them things. So that way I can lean forward and watch them lean forward with me, type of thing. All right. So then what I do is I say, great, I want to sit my stuff down. Well, let me just jump back into role play, I guess. Brady, I appreciate that, man. Hey, before we get started, before I, pop anything out of my my bag here, what I'd like to do first is I'd like to go through your home and do a nickel tour. I'd like to, tour the home through the eyes of a buyer. This will only take me about 5 to 10 minutes. And trust me, I've done this so many times that it's so important that that I need to see the first take of your home. It needs to be from the eyes of a buyer. Do you understand why that's important, Brady?
Yeah. So do you want me to show you around, or?
Yeah, great question. No, I actually don't, because what that causes you to do is that causes you to point out and show me everything and guide me through the house like you want me to. And see, the reality is when when this house goes live and showings start happening and buyers come into your home, you're not going to be able to be here to guide them around the home. And so I just want to do it really quick. You're more than welcome to follow me as I go. I'm just going to take some brief notes, but like I said, 5 minutes in and out. And then by the end of this, Brady, should you decide to work with me and I decide to work with you, then I would love for you to take me around the home in a much longer manner and show me everything that makes this home good for you. So that way I can market it effectively. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Great. So again, you guys, I really need to see this house through my eyes, because Brady and homeowners, things in their home become background noise. So if you're watching this video and anybody on this video, think about where you're living right now. I don't care if you rent or own or the place that you live right now. There's got to be something that you walk by that either makes you feel good about what you walk by and makes you feel like a piece of artwork, a painting or something, or there's something in your home that you walk by that needs touched up, that needs work, that needs this, that needs that. And so what it does is it causes you to make a focal point. The seller causes you to make a focal point where you may or may not need that focal point, because as soon as Brady says, well, look at this, man, we put in this, we put in this whole house fan just 2 years ago. It's been awesome. We have a central AC, Bruce, but we put in this whole house fan and it's been amazing. And I'm up here looking at this whole house fan, and behind me, there's a hole in the wall from the bedroom doorknob, right? All of those things I need to be able to see. And if Brady's detracting that from me, I won't be able to see things like that. So it's important. That's why it's important. And then the other thing is you're setting the stage, you're setting expectation. They're not going to be here during showings, right? Some sellers have no clue how this works. And here's the thing. If you guys have ever taken buyers out, sometimes you will go and show a buyer a property and the homeowner's there or the tenant's there. And so if that's all that they do and they buy that house, they may sell their house thinking that same process needs to happen. I can't stand it when my sellers have to be at the house. I don't like when tenants have to be in the home when it's being showed. Again, it takes away from the buyer. So that's the importance about going around by yourself. Now, I take a notebook with me. Here's a little bit another psychological piece. Take a notebook with you and write down just something. I don't care what you write down something, write down positives and negatives, right? If you just write down open concept and carpet looks a little old, like if that's all your notes are, that's okay. It's the piece of them seeing you write down something and them not knowing what you wrote down. So you get back to the table, you say, all right, thanks for letting me do that. Let's get started here. And you take that piece of paper, you take that notebook, and you close it, you put it down. Don't let them see your notes. They're curious. Again, you want to raise their awareness. You want to raise their listening skills at that point. And you can do that with whatever notes you take around for that nickel tour. Then when you get back to the dining room table, hopefully, this is pretty much where we'll jump back in here, Brady. Brady, man, thanks. Great home. I'd love to learn some more about it here as we go along. But first and foremost, I want to tell you about, what I expect out of our meeting today. You see, I'm going to make this easy on you, Brady. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tackle any questions that you have. Second, we're going to go over some pricing. We're going to go over, where you think the price is at, and I'm going to show you what's called a comparative market analysis. And then to end our meeting today, Brady, we're going to talk about the process and how it all works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, like I said, 3 steps. Let's get started. What kind of questions do you have?
So I guess my first question is, we've been interviewing some other realtors, and they've kind of showed us what they can do, but I'm just trying to figure out, what it is that you can do maybe differently.
Great. Yeah, no, what I do to get homes sold, marketing it, all of that stuff. Absolutely. Actually, yeah, we're going to tackle that very hard and heavy when I talk about the selling process over here. Yeah, perfect. That's a great question.
Okay.
What other questions do you have?
I'm trying to think. Not sure if I have any right now, but I might have some in a minute.
No, that's good.
Through the process.
Cool. No, that's good to role play. What I wanted you guys to see there is when you ask what kind of questions do you have, because you have not got started yet, you deflect every single question for down the road. You don't have to answer anything right here, but here's what it does. And I think I said this maybe before we recorded this, so I'll say it again. When you ask somebody questions, especially like that, right? Do you have any questions before we get started? I didn't give him a topic of conversation. I didn't give him, do you have any questions about pricing? Do you have any questions about commissions? Do you have any questions about the process? Do you have any questions about marketing? Because if I direct him with this subject, he's going to probably think of a question. But if I just direct him with, do you have any questions before we get started? I just found out what's the most burning thing on his mind. He wants to make sure he's working with an agent who's going to market his home effectively. Now, throughout this next kind of phase of going through the CMA and going through, you know, a bit of the seller's process, before I actually get to my marketing spiel, I'm going to try and figure out any questions I can ask to pick up on what he likes. So for instance, and I don't know if we'll get into all of this, Brady, but like I would go through the CMA with Brady, and maybe I can find a CMA with a home with staging. Maybe I can find a home that has like some really good curb appeal where I know that there's fake flowers by the front door because it's winter and the photos make it look like there's flowers that are alive, even though there's snow on the ground. I'm going to watch for things that I can point out and ask him more questions on to see how he envisions his home being marketed. So if I see a home with staging, I'll say, oh, okay, looks like this home is staging. Hey, Brady, what's your take on staging a home? So before Brady can ask me, Bruce, do you believe in staging? I get to ask him if he believes in staging. I get to ask him if that's important to him. So then when it comes down to the marketing side of things, I can start to go, well, here's what I do to get homes sold. You see, I also believe, Brady, that home staging is important. The reason why I believe it's important is because we want to make sure that the buyers feel comfortable here. And with all of your stuff being around the house, it's your stuff. They might not feel like it's theirs. So I think you're right. We need to maybe take down some personal effects. And I don't know if we need to bring in any staging items. I'm going to leave that up to you, but I do think we need to have some furniture strategically placed. So that way the buyers can see depth in the room. I think that's really important. What do you think, Brady? I know the answer is yes, because I already, you know, it's already been asked over here, right? So really, really, really important. You ask, do you have any questions? And then it's really like, when you guys get better, I'm not saying you have to spend your entire career deflecting questions like that. But when you're new, deflect away. It gives you so much time to start to prepare for it, right? But there's also a negative side to this. What do you think the negative side to this, Brady, Caleb, is? Sorry, Caleb, you're the other one that's got your camera on. What do you think the negative side to asking that question? What kind of questions do you have?
They might ask you something you're not ready to answer or you don't know the answer to.
Bingo. Nail on the head, Caleb. The crappy part is when they say something that makes you squirmy, meaning you don't know how to tackle it or handle it. So if you don't know your commission objection scripts and they say, well, yeah, one of my biggest questions is Bruce, what do you charge for commissions? Right? You know, like I said, in my early career, I would probably deflect that question. Now I nip that in the bud. Oh, yeah, you know, I charge 6%. Is that important to you? Well, yeah, that's important to me. I need to know what I'm paying you. Oh my gosh, yeah, no, that's very true. We need to break down commissions because when I say 6% and you say that I need to know what I'm paying you, oh boy, I wish I was getting 6%. See, the reality is we're going to have to cut that commission in half, and one half is going to go to the buyer's side, buyer's agent. One half is going to go to my side. But notice how I didn't say me. It just goes to my side. You see, I got to pay taxes, brokerage fees, and marketing fees, and then I might go through the commission objection there. But what I'm getting at is exactly what Caleb said. If you're not ready, and they ask you a question that makes you squirmy, you might build up too much. What do you call it? Angst throughout the process, right? You might have time now to actually answer that question, but you might also psych yourself out. So before you do these things, practice what we're doing right now with yourselves for sure. But it's an awesome tactic because if you are practicing pretty much every nuance, right? What are the objections, right? The objections are, I might go with a friend. Another agent's going to do it for less. Another agent has a better and more robust marketing system than you do or plan. Another agent feels like my house is worth more than you feel like it's worth. So you knowing your objections and even at least just knowing them and kind of being able to talk around them, push those questions off, gives you some time to really rethink through some scripts and some things that we do in class, and then you'll be able to tackle them. Awesome, you guys.
So
But-
if they ask the commission question like that right off the bat, you would tackle it the way you just tackled it, and then maybe touch on it later if they brought it up again.
That's a good question. Early in my career, I would say, oh yeah, that's a great question. I'm happy to talk around commissions. You see, I'm glad that you understand on the sell side that you know, on this side, you pay commissions. We'll absolutely talk about that when we talk about my marketing plan and what you get for that, what you get for my fee. Ooh, I almost said 6%, but what you get for my fee. And I just deflect it. Now that I've got more experience with it, like I know my answer is no. And so if they say, well, yeah, I got a question. What do you charge on commissions? I say 6%. Is that important to you? And they say, well, yeah, it absolutely is. I need to know what I'm paying you. And then I go into, well, great. You know, I'm so glad you asked that, because when you say what you're paying me, I got to make sure you understand I'm not getting that 6%. So I do tackle it now. I tackle some questions now, but a lot of times I deflect them, because I'll be honest with you guys. A lot of times the first questions are not objections. The first questions are just kind of what's important to them. Well, I guess we just really can't understand how this process is going to work. Great. We're going to talk about the process down here. What else? So a lot of times I'm still deflecting most everything. Every now and then I'll get an objection and I'll tackle it right there. But you guys, sometimes I just had somebody the other day walk into my office and say, Bruce, we need your one-liner. What do you do? What do you do when somebody wants to reduce commission? And I was like, I fumbled. I still do. And I'm not worried about it. If I do it at a listing presentation, I just push it down. Just push it down. Good questions. What else?
I was just gonna say, I find that if you get them to talk about their questions, then they can focus better on what you're saying.
Yeah, bingo. They can focus better on what you're saying. And that's exactly, Michelle, because whatever questions come out of their mouth is their major focus. Once you give them the assurity that you're going to go over it, then they know that they don't have to sit there and keep going, oh my gosh, I got to remember to ask Bruce this. I got to remember to ask this. I got to remember to ask this, which causes exactly what Michelle was saying. They're not listening. They're just waiting for their moment. It's like the person that you're talking to that you can tell they're just waiting to say their point. They're not listening to what you have to say. They're just waiting to say something after you're done talking. I think I plugged my computer. So yeah, ask any questions, deflect as need be, all of that stuff. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a CMA. So we're going to do this kind of in a live format. I just put together a CMA yesterday for a presentation I need to do on Friday for another agent in Loveland. And so I haven't reviewed this. I haven't gone over it, but we'll do it just like I would do in someone's home here. Let me find it. All right, everybody see my email here? Cool. So if you use Iris and you use Cloud CMA, there's 3 different versions. There's 3 different ways to use this. All right. I'm a creature of habit, you guys. The slideshow is pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I just never grew up using it, if you will. But it's awesome. So I would encourage you guys to, when you guys practice your presentation, use this. So let me just fumble through this. But I am much more adept to using this PDF view. It's just because I think it just goes, up and down. It doesn't go up and down, backwards and forwards and left and right and all of that. So I'm used to just scrolling down to this map here and then starting my conversation. But I'll go back over to the slideshow here too. Let's see if we can get that. All right, Brady. Well, yeah, this is what we call a comparative market analysis. Now, Brady, before we go through this, I really want you to understand that this is just a tool, and this is something that we need to interpret. You see, I don't expect you to understand exactly how to read this, so I want to make sure we go over some of the basis behind this, Brady. See, a comparative market analysis is going to give us what's happened in the past. And here's what I want you to know, Brady. There's two values to your home. There's what we call a comparative market analysis value or an appraisal value, which is what the appraisers are going to use to figure out the value of your home. And then there's also what we call market value, right? You see, your house is not going on the market in the past, which is where all these past sold properties have sold. Your property is going to be going on the market here soon, which is, today's current market. So as we go through this, ask me any questions you need, but what we're going to focus on is some of the past sold properties. And then also understanding that as our market trends up, we might be able to price your home in accordance to where the market is today. So since our trend is pricing up, we may be able to price your home towards the upper end of the comp range. But we need to go through this and figure out what your comp range is, Brady, because this is the market range. But now we need to go through and we need to compare the market to your home to come up with your range. Does that make sense? Great. So let's get started here. And you can play through this. You can play with this later, Brady, after I leave here today. So I'll teach you how to use this. At any time you want to get back to this page right here, just hit the home button. And then what you're going to notice is arrows. So arrows are going to pop up. As soon as I hit this arrow here, you're going to have a way to go back. So this will cause you to know what your options are. So we're going to go over here to the map. So our subject property or your property is right. Actually, that is wrong. Your subject property is right here. Your property is right here. And so these are what we're comparing. All of these little red sold homes, this is exactly what we're going to be looking at. So that way you understand, I'm only concerned with what's selling around you. And that's exactly what an appraiser is going to do. You see, Brady, if we find that your home is worth XYZ because of 3 comps on the other side of Loveland, I can tell you that the appraiser is not going to use that. You see, an appraisal value comes from an appraiser coming out to your house and assessing properties that have sold as close to your home as they can find, as long as they're within the same similar comps and concepts. So that's why we're focused on that. Let's move on here. So Brady, this first home here, what I'm going to do is we're going to go through each different home and we're going to take our time with it. We're going to compare each piece of criteria to the sold price. And then we're going to go through and you're going to see that there's the arrow. It starts to come up at the bottom there. We can go through and we can compare the photos to your home. So what I'd like to do is go through each home and I'm going to ask you how your home stacks up to these different properties. So yada, yada, yada. We go through all the homes and what I'm doing is I'm asking Brady, okay, Brady, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel like your home compares to the interior of this home on 11th Street? And he's going to give me a number. And then I'm just going to keep going through different homes. All right, Brady, this one has a 3-bedroom. This is a 3-bedroom home. Yours is a 4-bedroom. This one has a second bath. This one is 1,700 square feet and your house is 1,500 square feet. So how do you feel this home compares on a scale of 1 to 10? Yada, yada, yada. And then when I get down to it, I'm going to go all the way. I'm going to go all the way to this. This property here. And I'm going to go all the way to this. And I say, based upon what you told me, you feel like your property was more in alignment with these 3 here. So let's take a look at their price. Let's take a look at where your property is. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, Brady, based upon everything that we just went over and how you graded your home against all these other properties, where do you feel realistically that your home will sell? And he's going to come up with a price. And he might not come with the price right here, right? So if he comes up with a price, what am I going to do here?
You're going to show them how many days each one's out on the market, maybe, like according to that price range?
Yes, bingo. Depending on where he listed his house. So when he's thinking through this, so when Brady's thinking through this, I just showed him where he thinks his home stacks and I showed him the average in the area. The next thing that I'm kind of doing is I'm looking, where's the baseline, 300,000, and where's the top end? I saw one, 391. Oh, I'm sorry, that's list price. Sorry.
265.
Sorry. 330 and 391, or 320 and 391. So I'm just getting a base price. So now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, as long as Brady is thinking his price is in between here, we're going to be good. In this market, everybody's going to want to go up to this 390 area. I'm almost going to guarantee that if Brady is really paying attention and listening to me, he's going to say, well, Bruce, I really feel like my house is, very comparable to St. Louis. It has, one less bed, bathroom. What do you think that bathroom's worth?
Couple grand at least.
Couple grand at least. And he might be asking me that, right? Hey, Bruce, what do you think that bathroom's worth? What do you think my answer is going to be?
Well, maybe you would look at another property that had that one less bath and see what that one sold for and say what the market indicates it's worth.
Bingo. Talk about the market. Great. That's awesome, Melissa. I might go back through and find if there was like another house that was like really, really similar or whatnot. But see, here's what I'm looking at. You've got this gap from 365 to 391. That's a pretty significant gap, right? So I'm probably going to eliminate some of these lower ones like 320 and 330, but we've got a big gap in here. So if Brady says, hey, I want to list my house, Bruce, at 391, because I believe it's going to be worth that. And I can say, you know what? Hey, I appreciate your opinion. I just want to make sure, was that the one with two bathrooms? And so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and question some of the things that I know. This has 2 bathrooms. He has 1. Oh, okay. So you believe your house is worth 391, even though it has 1 bathroom less? Brady, you could say, yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Say, great. Okay. So you know what? I'm not a crystal ball reader, just kind of like what Melissa said. I'm not a crystal ball reader, or, hey, you know what? We never know what the market's going to bring. Being that you're within this value range here, I feel pretty confident that we could list your home at 391. Now, Brady, let me ask you this. Are you looking to price your home to sell, or are you looking to get every bit of every penny you can out of your home?
I mean, I guess both, but I don't want it to, last thing I want to do is have it sit on the market.
Okay. No, and I can appreciate that. And that's why I'm trying to say the market decided that this home was worth 391. Now, I don't know, and you're not going to know either, whether or not that home brought 391 because of that extra bathroom or because of some other nuance. So the reason why I asked that question, Brady, is because if we listed at 391, I need to know what you want to accomplish, because if your home doesn't sell in the first couple of weeks, I need to know whether you're going to be frustrated with me or not. Because what I see is that this home has a little bit more than what your home has to offer. And so I can't guarantee that you're going to get that price for it. And so I just want to make sure up front, we have an understanding going into this.
I gotcha. I guess maybe we would put it somewhere in between that 391 and 360 so that it didn't sit.
Great. And then I would talk to him about where he would think that would be a great place. Now, if Brady says, well, yeah, no, I understand that. And I won't blame you, Bruce, but I'd still like to try 391. As you said, the market's going up. What am I going to say there?
Would you just say, hey, are you willing to take the risk that it might sit a little bit longer?
Yeah, I would. Exactly, Brady. I'd go back into that, right? But I don't know if I'd say, are you going to be willing to take the risk? I would say, great. As long as we know what we're getting ourselves into and you need to get this thing sold. I just don't want it to be an uncomfortable conversation if I call you in a couple of weeks and we start to talk about a price reduction. That's all. But I'm with you, Brady. I think that my skill set and the way I market homes, I'm pretty confident that we can get close to that. I'm not a magic, a tarot card reader, or, blah, 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 whatever you want to, use. I'm not a, crystal ball reader, but the market's going to tell us, but I feel pretty confident. Thanks. So let's move on. So you guys, I'm perfectly cool with somebody if I'm the one doing the CMA and I put the 391 comp in there, and he knows that his house blatantly doesn't have that extra bathroom and wants to list it at that, I'm going to list it at that all day long. And then because I'm listing at that, and because I know it has something extra that his home doesn't have, I'm just letting him know that if it doesn't sell right off the rip, no hard feelings, man. You chose to test the waters. But I'm also going to oversell, and not oversell, but I'm going to continue to tell him, because remember his first question, what are you going to do to get my home sold? The last person I talked to had a pretty good marketing plan, and I want to know what you're going to do. Hey, look, with my marketing plan, I feel very confident I can definitely shoot for this. I can definitely come close to this. Because I'm trying to build up that process of how I'm going to market his home. So yeah, make sure your comps, make sure your CMA has things that you can talk around, right? Go through it inside and out. Pricing the home is so important, so important. But that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him compare his home to the other homes. I'm going to see how unrealistic or realistic he is. Practice going through a CMA and asking questions where they have to answer it correctly, right? So let me give you just a brief example. Again, we're not going to go over the full-blown CMA, but I'll give you like one example here. Let me just find it properly.
I do have a question, Bruce.
Go ahead. I'm going to try and find the right property here.
So when I did my second for sale by owner and had a listing appointment, the guy that I never went with, when I brought up like different comps in the neighborhood, he kept giving me like serious objections as to why that house didn't compare to his house, because it was a street behind, but it was, not the same style, or there's some sort of, objection that he was giving me. Oh, these homes are way different than my home. How do you kind of talk around that?
Yeah. Yep. That's great. Be that person. I'm echoing now. Hello.
You're good.
No, I'm still echoing. Let me see if it stops. It's your room, Brady. So how do I talk about it? I basically will go, hey, that's exactly why you're here. I haven't lived in this home with you for X amount of years. I would love to know why that home does compare so much different than you. And Brady, I really appreciate you bringing this up, because these are all those nuances that you got to know over the time of living here. So I really, like I said, when I first walked in this door, Brady, and I said, thanks for having me over, this is exactly why. So being that, you feel that, this property has X, Y, and Z over yours, or yours has over that property, what do you think the value difference is in those different nuances that you talked about? You can unmute yourself.
At least, 30 grand, I would think.
At least 30 grand. Great.
Yeah.
And let's just do a hypothetical here, Brady. Let's pretend that, let's pretend that we do list this property for 30 grand over this property. And obviously, Brady, if a buyer comes to make an offer, we won't have to have this discussion. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, the home sits on the market for a week, a weekend, or 2 weekends, and we don't get that offer. Or maybe our first couple of offers come in, a little less than where we're thinking. What will your decision be at that point to do?
I guess we'd have to reconsider the price point. It's not getting sold.
Maybe, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, Brady. I just want to understand where we're at, because there's two ways to sell a house, right? One, you're going to price it to sell, or two, you're going to price it to get your price. And what that means is if we're pricing it to get your price, I just need to know that going into this, Brady, we're just going to, if there's not somebody that makes you an offer, we're going to wait until the market matches your price point. You see, just like I said, going into this, we have two different values we're going to come up with your home. The market's going to tell us what the buyers are willing to pay for your home. And this comparative market analysis is hopefully going to get us close. So if it's $30,000 and you need that money, I just need to understand that if we don't get an offer within the first couple of weeks, I'm not going to hound you for a price reduction, Brady. But if you want to get this thing sold, what I hear you saying is that I have your permission to give you a call in a couple of weeks to talk about a price reduction if it doesn't sell. Is that accurate?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'm happy to test the waters. Now I'm going to take a pause from role playing here. And I had this conversation with Brady actually on his listing. A lot of people ask me, Bruce, what will you and won't you take, right? I've always, I've seen different classes, I've seen different things and seminars about, what price point won't you take? I've been told like it's a waste of time to take an overpriced listing. I've been told not to, reduce my commissions too much and take an overpriced listing and this and that. What do you do, Bruce? Well, what Bruce does is I look at a couple different factors. Okay. One, if somebody wants to overprice their home, and to me, overprice meaning they're gonna pick out a price that is over the value or over the range that is in this little setting here. So if Brady says, I'd like to press the envelope and I'd like to list it at 425, I'm gonna say, you know what? Let's see what let's see what's happening with the market at 425. And I'm going to do this right in front of Brady because I'm kind of making my decision. If he told me 400 on this, I would take it all day because that's like less than 1%. But if he wants to press the envelope and say, I want to list this thing at 425 and none of my comps are even getting close to 400,000, then I'm going to say, well, hey, you know what? I can't tell you what your property will or won't sell for, but let's look at the market. Let's see what's active and on the market at 400,000 or 425,000. And so I would go in real time with Brady and I would run a comp search, or not a comp search. I would run a buyer search for anything active, not just in that mile radius, because remember, comps are just within the closest to the house, but a buyer doesn't care. When a buyer's looking for a home, they might be looking for a home for 425 in Loveland. So I'm going to do a search for Loveland, 425 and under, and I'm going to compare his home to all of the homes that are on the market. And here's what's going to happen. If that property is, if I can find homes that match exactly what he's listing his home for that 390 area, I'm going to say, hey, Brady, look, I'm not 100% sure that you're going to get your price. So here's what I need to know. Before I decide to take your listing, I need to know if you're going to be willing to do a price reduction if this thing doesn't sell in like, let's say 2 weeks or a month. Would you be willing to put pen to paper on that? And if Brady says, no, I wouldn't be, they say, well, see, the fact of the matter is, Brady, is I have some concerns because I've been doing this a long time. And what it shows us is that the market in the sold sense is telling us your house is worth probably less than 400,000. And on a consumer standpoint, for what buyers can buy in this market, I'm finding that the value of your home versus what they can buy elsewhere, you're not going to be in competition with them. And you see, since you're not willing to put pen to paper on this, Brady, I can't tell you I'm willing to go out and spend $1,000 on marketing and photos and doing all of these things for something that may not come to fruition. And if you and I start butting heads, I can't charge you $1,000 for my marketing time and effort. So it's going to be money out of my pocket. And so I have to think on this a little bit, Brady, because I'm not so confident this is going to sell at 425.
That makes sense.
Okay. So now let's flip that. Okay. So let's say Brady says, Bruce, yeah, I want to do this at 425. And I say, okay, great. See, I'm not going to go straight back to this thing. We've already analyzed this. We've already beat this thing to the ground. So I'm going to say, great, Brady. Let me do this before I decide. Before I decide to take your listing at 425, I want to go through and I want to do a search. I want to do a search and I want to compare your home to what other buyers are seeing on the market. You see a buyer, and then I go through that same script. A buyer isn't looking for a mile around your home. They're looking for all of Loveland. So let's go through and let's look in Loveland and let's see. And so I'm literally will do this right with Brady. I'll say residential detached coming soon, active. I'm going to say, let's see what's out there for 430 and under. Since you want to list it for 400,000, I'm going to say Loveland. And you guys, whatever comes up, oops, I would do some more and I'd whittle it down, right? I'd try and whittle it down and actually make a search like 3-bed, 2-bath and whatever. And what I would do is I would go through and I would try and basically run through like a comparative market analysis, just like I ran through that and had him judge his home against the solds. Then I would have him judge his home against what is out there on the market. And then I would say, you know what? Hey, look, and remember how the first scenario, sorry, I'm jumping around. The first scenario, I couldn't find anything on the market for 425,000. Everything that compared to his house was in that 300,000 range. So I'm going to decide, and I'm going to probably leave the conversation going, I've got to make a decision whether I want to take your listing or not, Brady. And if Brady says, well, I'm just going to go with the other agent that was pretty confident in it, I'm going to say, have a great day. I just am. I've been down that road too much, right? But if I can find something, maybe 410, 428, I'm gonna say, you know what? Looks like the market is also pushing that envelope in other areas. So Brady, I think that I don't think you're wrong, but I really would like to know, come 2 weeks from now, am I looking to keep your home on the market, or are you looking to, reduce it and get it sold? Again, I just want to know how long we're going to be sitting on the market for. So I'm planting some doubt, but I'll probably take his listing. So that's how I tackle that. And I get that question a lot, is what is too overpriced? Oh, you might be overpriced in the comp world, but you might not be overpriced in what the competition is. And if I'm going to be competitive, I'm going to list it, because I'm probably going to get some sign calls. I'm probably going to get some leads off of it. That's kind of where I draw my line in the sand. Is this thing going to give me some leads if it doesn't sell? Because I am going to spend some money on getting this thing sold. The other thing is it's a seller's market, right? I'm going to go back to that inventory level. What if Brady wants to list the house at 425 and I go and I find inventory in Loveland, and they're all in that 390s range, and none of them are over 400, but there's only 3 properties listed in Loveland. I'm probably going to test the waters. I'm probably going to take that listing, but I also know that that's on that gray area. It's probably, a risk. That help?
Yeah.
Cool. So I go over the CMA and we really hone in on price. And then before I leave that situation, and say, great, so you feel good about XYZ. Great, me too. So far, we're in alignment, Brady. I feel pretty confident about working with you. But let's go through the selling process. You see, I want to make sure that you understand the selling process. And the way that we're going to go through the selling process, Brady, is we need to both be on the same page. Because the reality is that there's dates and deadlines and things that go on within the contract that we have to abide by. And I'm going to need to be able to get a hold of you. So I need to make sure that we're going to be able to work together. So we've agreed on price. Now let's go into what the selling process looks like. All right. And so for the sake of this video and time, I'm going to start to go over the selling process, and we're going to go over it quickly, Brady, but I'm going to show you guys how I kind of introduce the contract with the selling process. Okay. So what I do is what I'll have is, have you guys ever seen like a seller's flow chart? You guys probably find yourself or create yourself a seller's flow chart. I'm still trying to find one that I love to share with you guys. But my seller's flow chart basically says the same things that mainly like a buyer's flow chart says. But instead of getting pre-approved and getting your search and setting up your home search and going on showings, like that's the only part of the process that changes from buyer's presentation to seller's presentation. It's just a little different. So what it's going to be is, my first thing is choose a target date to list. Then it says order photos 3 to 4 days, or have photos taken 3 to 4 days before target list date. Then below that it'll say staging ? And then I'll know to talk about staging and whether that we need that to happen. And that's really, and then how showings work. Those are about the 4 points on a seller side that I talk about with the process. And then when I'm bringing that up, this is what I'm going over and I'm doing with them. I'm saying, look, as we get this thing going, we're going to have some disclosures. So you're going to be working on getting your home on the market, or getting your home ready to be on the market. I'm going to go back and I'm going to order some photos, and I'm going to start to get some disclosures ready. So we're going to work on this as a process. We're going to work on this together, but that's what I'm trying to do, guys. I'm locking down. When I talk about the seller's process, I really need to lock down where a target date is. If you leave a listing presentation going, well, I'm going to work on this stuff for the next couple of weeks, and then I'll give you a call to let you know where I'm at. And then we'll start to lock some things down. Don't let them do that. Make sure you set a hypothetical deadline. And here's the psychology behind it. If they say a couple of weeks, say, great, just for peace of mind and for the way that I like to work, let's set a date on that. So if you're saying a couple of weeks, what do you say about XYZ? And so what is today? Today's the 27th. I'll say, great. So what I hear you saying is I should give you a call around, Valentine's Day. So I'll give you a call, that second week in February to see where you're at. So that way, if you're ready, we can get photos taken, right? Great. Well, I said Valentine's Day, February, second week, like set up that, February 14th. So now you put a deadline in their head. It's so important to put a deadline in a seller's head and a buyer's head for that matter. But when you do that, it triggers this psychological to do. But if you leave it open-ended, they will leave it open-ended in their head as well. And so when they have time this weekend to work on their house and they just don't really feel like it, they're not going to do it because you guys didn't set a date in mind. But as that thing comes up and they know you're going to call them and they saw February 14th flash through their mind when you said it. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get I'm going to have my seller's flow chart out, but because that's like one of the 4 pieces of paper Bruce brings, but on my computer, I'm going to have the agreement out. I'm going to have the exclusive right to list out. And that's what I'm going to tell them is this is kind of where I go. And I'm honing in on a timeline. I'll say, great, let me grab the listing agreement. I need to just put some of these notes in here. So that way, as we decide to work together, we're all on the same page about what we talked about today. And then once we're done going through this, I'm going to go over all of my notes in the seller's listing or in the exclusive right to list. And then should I decide to work with you and you decide to work with me, we'll get this thing signed and I'll get to work for you guys. And so I go through the seller's process and I make my notes in the exclusive right to list. And then that way they are again, it's all about that curiosity. That way they're curious about what I'm putting in this listing agreement, which causes them to do what? It causes them to want to go through it with me while I'm still at the table. Cool? Does that make sense? Okay. Do you guys want to go over the rest of the process? So the only process that's, from a buyer to a seller side, the actual process is the same once you go under contract, right? You're going to order title. You're going to have an inspection done. You're going to have an appraisal done. You're going to have, all of these things. But the only difference is the before it goes on the market with a seller and a buyer. And that's solidifying on a target date, photos, possibly staging, how showings work, and disclosures. And then once you talk about that, the rest of the process is the same. Do you guys want me to kind of give you my spiel about photos and staging and all of that stuff? We are on time actually pretty well right now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So Brady, I appreciate you going through the CMA with me. Let's go over the seller's flow chart or the seller's process, if you will. You see, Brady, when we get started on this, what we need to do is we need to have a target date in mind. And the reason why we need to have a target date in mind is because I need to know when to order photos. You see, there's this delicate balance of when you have your home is ready and you say, Bruce, I'm ready for sale, then that means your house is cleaned up and ready, but we need to get that thing photo ready. So between the time you get it photo ready and the time we get on the market, I don't want to have a lot of delay. Because here's the thing, Brady, to get your home ready and photo ready and ready to live or ready for showings, it's going to cause you to have to put away things that you like to use and you like to live with. So once photos are done, you can start to live in your house again. Obviously, I want you to clean up your home before showings, but photo ready is different than show ready. Does that make sense, Brady?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Awesome. So let me give you one example. So not a lot of people say yeah, just so you know right there. Let me give you one example of the difference between photo ready and show ready, Brady. You see, for photos, I want everything off your countertops over here. I want the knife block. I want the toaster off there. I want the drying rack. all the stuff on the top of on your cabinets, like I think it looks great as far as decorations go, but that might not be the style of somebody else's. So I want all that stuff off of there, and that's photo ready, Brady. But see, show ready means go ahead and put your butcher block back on the countertop. I don't want you to have a cluttered butcher block by any means, or cluttered butcher block. I don't want you to have a cluttered countertop by any means, but you're going to use your knives. Go ahead and, bring them out of storage and put them back on the countertop for showings, but for photos, they need to be gone. So that's the difference between show ready and photo ready. Make sense?
Gotcha. Okay.
Great. And after we're done here, again, if you decide to work with me and I decide to work with you, I'm going to have you walk around the home with me to show me everything that you love about the home. And then that's where I'm going to take some time and go into detail around what you need to do to get your home photo ready. All right. So, yeah, Brady, if we're going to be doing this in the next 2 weeks, then I'm going to give you a call on February 14th. To see where we're at and to make sure that we can get photos ready. So does that make sense? I'll give you a call on February 14th. If you say, hey, I'm photo ready, then I'm going to get off the horn with you and right away dial the photographer. We'll have them match up with you and get all that stuff coordinated and scheduled. How would you like the photographer to reach out to you? Via phone, text, or email?
Oh, either one. They can reach out to me on all avenues if I don't answer.
Great. You see, I like the photographer to kind of coordinate with your schedule, and instead of me being the middleman, I want to make sure you guys are on the same page of when he's coming to take those photos. Okay. Then Brady, do you feel like I use Virtuance? It's a Denver-based company. It's called. Let me put the link in here. Well, you guys can probably all spell Virtuance. Bruce can. All right. I use them. I'll be honest with you. I use them because I don't have time to, I most of the time in my world, I need somebody to answer the phone. I don't want to play phone tag. I just want to be able to send out an email and then have somebody call my sellers to coordinate it. So I like Virtuance for that. It's not the cheapest, but they're super professional. They have all the packages. I don't have to go out and find one guy that does drone and this other guy does a 3D tour, and they just do it all, and they have different tiers and different packages. But I do like to use local, but I've just found that sometimes they're ready the next day and sometimes they're like 2 weeks away. So I use Virtuance.
So Bruce, how do you decide what package to go with, right? Because you're paying for it, right?
Yep.
So do you like the drone, or if it's like a really nice acreage property, you do the drone, or do you always use the same package?
That's great, Melissa. Hopefully I'll answer your question here. Okay. So Brady, let's talk about staging a little bit. I'd like to go through your home and see what we need to do, but I want to get your takes on it. How do you feel about, staging your home? Do you want to bring in some furniture? Do you want me to just give you some pointers? A lot of people have different opinions on this, and I really like to leave it open to, you as the homeowner.
I feel like I don't want to spend a whole lot of extra money. I feel like my furniture is nice enough, but maybe you can give me some pointers on things I might need to put away.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. So that's the key, guys. I just ask them how they feel about it. And just how I'm going to answer Melissa's questions about photos and what packages to use. Another common response, or not, I wouldn't say common, but another response that Brady could have is, no, I don't want to do any staging. Or yeah, no, I'm all about staging. Are you going to be paying for that through your marketing budget? So make sure you're ready for that. Make sure you understand what you are and what you are willing and aren't willing to do. For me, if I'm looking at a house that I know is going to sell with or without staging, I'm not paying for it. And so my spiel is, hey, that's a great question. You know what I do? I will actually pay for your initial consultation with the stager. So the stager is going to come in and they're going to, kind of go over the home and go over everything that you guys are doing. And if you decide to use them as a stager, I'll pay for that initial consultation, but you'll be renting the furniture if that's what you so desire. So that way you can choose how many pieces you want to bring in here and whatnot. If like, you know what I mean? Like that thing's going to sell with or without. So I'm just going to, I might pay for that. If I'm already knowing that I'm given some sort of friends and family discount, if I already know kind of where I'm at, commission wise at this time, because sometimes you just already know going into this. Sometimes they've already hit you with it over the phone and you've tackled it, anything of that nature. But if I'm giving a discount, I'll say, well, hey, you know what? Because we're at this place, you know, I was expecting, you know, to basically have some of my marketing budget cut out due to the, you know, the commission lacks. You see, I definitely need to pay my brokerage, my taxes, and myself. And so some of that money that you know, we've agreed to come down on as far as our commissions goes. Some of that comes out of marketing and some of that comes out of my pocket. So with that being said, I don't really pay for staging in this situation. But if you want, we can bump it up to 6% and I'll pay for some staging. But I'll say some, and that's when I'll go through and I'll say, look, we need to go through and we need to have a stager come in, and I'm willing to pay for some furniture, but I'm not going to deck this house out to make it look like somebody's living here. But you guys would have to practice your own craft, practice your own script around what your business will do. But sometimes I get asked if I'm paying, sometimes I don't. I was willing to pay for it on that $685,000 house that I had. One, because where the commissions were at, where we agreed. Two, because of the price point. Three, because of the neighborhood. Sometimes even in a higher dollar amount, even a higher priced, you know, home, where they at? Where are they listing it at? Am I just going to pay for staging for 3 months because they decided they didn't want to list their home at the right price point? So all of those nuances go into my decision on staging, but for the most part, I just want to get Brady's opinion on it. So that way I know how to talk around it. If he's not that interested, I'm not going to talk around it. If he's going to ask me my opinion on it, I'm going to say, look, Brady, going back to where we were talking about with price, I'm willing to take your listing at 425, or let's say it's a higher price. I'm willing to take your listing at 725, Brady, but you see, you know, comps say, and the comparative market analysis says your house is worth more like 675. And you see, if I pay for staging, I'm already pretty confident that your house is going to sit on the market for a while. So now instead of, you know, what you're asking me to do is you're asking me to pay for staging per month for some unknown, because, you know, honestly, I would advise you to maybe have your home priced at a little bit lower, you know, price point, because I know that this could cause it to, you know, sit on the market. So I got to say no in this situation. And once you give them that rationale, you flip the switch back on them. You know, that's where if you did it right in the CMA, you flip it back around on them, right? Look, I know you're trying to net the most amount of money that you can for your home. But you see, the thing of it is I got to watch my marketing dollar, and every month that ticks by is another staging bill that I would have to pay for. So I just can't commit to it at this price point. Or I can't commit to it at this commission level or whatever that is, right? So same thing, Melissa, on pictures and photos. So that's where I go into that, right? So once we have your home ready for photos and we have it all, you know, nice and ready after maybe some staging or moving around some of your furniture, then we're going to have photos come in. Brady, do you have any idea on how you would like to see your home marketed as far as like photos go? And so that's where I let them talk, Melissa, and I let them ask about, you know, 3D tours and this and that, and, you know, those types of things, right? And then I say, I have to make a decision. So I'm already kind of thinking through all of this, Melissa, by the time we get here. Where's the price point at? You know, where am I at commissions wise? All of those things. And then that's when I'll say, look, for your house, I believe we're going to need X, Y, and Z to get this thing sold. It very much goes back to the staging conversation. If it's 450 and there's no homes for sale, can you guys hear me still? Cool. My earbuds went out. If it's 450 and there's no homes for sale, then that thing's going to sell with or without a 3D walkthrough. So I'm not going to pay for one. So I might say, if they say, well, what do you think about a 3D walkthrough? And I'll say, well, you know what, your price point, what we've been seeing and what we've been trending at is that in this price point, photos are what's causing people to want to go see your home. So I'll tell you what, Melissa, I think 3D tours are awesome. But before we spend those couple $100 extra, what do you think about me saving that money and not putting it in my pocket, but doing some online marketing for your home? You see, if the 3D tours aren't necessarily working at your price point and being the thing that causes people to sell your home, then I'd rather spend that money elsewhere to cause more traffic to get to your home. Does that make sense? And so that's how I can kind of talk my way out of that, right? It's not that I'm trying to sit here and save money on marketing budget. The reality is if I have a $425,000 property, I want that $200 in a 3D walkthrough to go towards my marketing for new leads on the internet or on an open house, a door knocking, those types of things, right? I want that $200 to pay for that month of Mojo so I can circle prospect around the neighborhood and get those extra listings or those extra leads. So that's kind of how I do it, Melissa. Like I said, $700,000 price point, you know, bounce anything you guys have off of me. But a $700,000 price point, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Is it a rural property? Right? Is it an in-town property? Like sometimes you get these $700,000 properties that are smack dab in the middle of the town. If it's going to be a drone shot, it better not just be a 50-foot drone shot above. Thanks for Michelle. I appreciate that. For everybody listening that maybe can't see the chats, Michelle said boxwood photos are pretty awesome too. So I might have to check them out too. If I'm right in the middle of town and I'm walking distance to like coffee shops and breweries and all the stuff that people want to go to, the trendy gift stores and stuff like that, and I do a drone shot, my photographer better not do a 50-foot drone shot just above the house that makes it just look like it's in a neighborhood, right? I want a drone shot that then I can take and I can highlight, here's so-and-so's brewery, here's so-and-so's coffee shop, here's so-and-so's gift shop, here's the grocery store. That's the type of drone shot I want to see for that type of property. Now, on a rural property, maybe like an acreage property or something like that, I might want like the 50-foot angled drone shot. So it's 50 foot in the air, but it's like not directly above the house, just looking down. It's 50 foot in the air, maybe at the edge of the property line, angled the way that you can see it. And so, because I know that those types of things will help the house sell. But if I have a $450,000 house in a lot and block subdivision, super track home, super, you know, you can't highlight any sort of, backyard views or, you know, a park that's right behind or whatever, then you're not getting any drone shots because it's not going to help cause somebody to come to the home, right? And so, like what I said, when I ask Brady or ask the seller, hey, what kind of listings or, you know, what kind of photography are you expecting for your listing? Not a lot of people are saying drones and 3D tours. And if they do, then they probably have a home that probably condones it. But that's what I do. I'm more of a photos and then I add on from there depending upon what I feel. Like I said, if it's a big house and it's really, really nice, I'll say, hey, look, instead of a drone shot to show everybody that you live in a track home neighborhood, why don't we spend the money on doing a 3D walkthrough so that way people can see, you know, the uniqueness of your layout? Because I think the layout is going to cause your home to sell over everybody else's because you have one of the most unique ones in the neighborhood. So that's kind of how I talk around that, Melissa. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. If you have any follow-up questions on that, let me know. But very similar, guys. And I don't take this much time to go through all of these points, but timeline, photos, staging, and then how showings work. So Brady, yeah, man, everything sounds good so far. But as far as showings go, this system that we use is pretty slick. It's called Showing Time. And what they're going to want to know is they're going to want to know what kind of lead time do you need? And by lead time, Brady, what I mean is how much time do you need from the moment somebody wants to schedule a showing? How much time do you need to maybe get out of your home or get ready? Like a 2-hour notice or a 1 hour, maybe 4 hour, maybe overnight. I'm going to give Brady some options here because he's probably never asked this question before. And I'm going to jump into Michelle. You want to role play with me? Looks like Brady's got to talk or something.
Just dogs going crazy.
Oh.
5 dogs in our house right now. It's a madhouse.
Oh gosh.
Plus in-laws, so.
So that's pretty much how I'm gonna go over showing time. I'm gonna say, hey, we use this robust system. I want to give you some options. They can give you a 2-hour notice required. The thing of it is, Brady, is we want to make sure we can get people in when they can get in. So realistically speaking, what are you looking for? Now, Brady, if you tell me 2-hour notice required and that time you need 3 hours, it's okay. Just decline the showing. But here's the thing, Brady. I want you to give the seller or the buyers another option, another time that they could get into the home. So if you need a 3-hour notice required, just put, instead of 2 p.m., so would 3 p.m. work? So Brady, any time that you need to decline a showing, please do yourself a favor and offer and suggest another time that would work. So how would you like them to notify you of a showing request? They can call, text, or email you, or a combination, or all three. And then he's going to answer that. Oops, sorry.
Text, whatever.
And then he's going to answer that. And then I'm going to set that up so that way he can do that. And so then I talk about that and I say, great. After all that said and done, Brady, you're going to be on the market. And what we're going to do is we're going to get your home on the market and showings are going to start. So before I leave today, is it cool if I put a sign in the yard, lockbox, all that stuff? I don't really talk about how signs going in the yard or a lockbox or something like that. I just basically say that that's what's happening. Most people know a sign's going to go in their yard. Some people haven't thought about, the lockbox. So I just say, I don't even do this at the seller's presentation. I literally do timeline, photos, staging, and showings. And then I talk to them about how the process works for going under contract. We're going to be ordering title. We're going to go through inspections. The same thing I say in my buyer's consultation video. And then when I'm leaving and I put the, I put the lockbox on, or maybe I have to come back and put the sign and lockbox in the yard because, they're signing listing agreements, but they might be 2 months away, whatever that is. I'm going to say, hey, look, do you have an extra key? Do you have a spare key? I don't want you to put your only key in the lockbox. You see, things happen. Buyer's agents accidentally take it home. It might fall through the cracks of the deck. It might get lost, like things happen. So I need you to understand that. Can I go make an extra key for you? I'll go volunteer to make keys for my sellers at Lowe's or Home Depot. It's a trip, it's a burden, it's time out of your day, but it's such a cheap stress reliever that you can do for your sellers. Sometimes it can win you over. It can really solidify that relationship. But I always go make an extra key for my sellers if they need to. Most people have extras. Go through the process, and then I say, great. Now, do you want to go over the exclusive right to list? I call it a loyalty agreement. So it's the same thing as a buyer's agreement, but I say, do you want to go over to the loyalty agreement that causes me to get your home sold or causes me to get to work for you now? I want to go over all the notes that I just took and all the things that we talked about as far as how you like showings, how you want photos, and when you want to, possibly get this home on the market. And like I said, they're much more likely to actually go over the listing agreement with me because they're curious about all the stuff that we talked about and how I took the notes. Make sense? Cool. What other questions you guys have before we wrap up this video?
I had a question about pricing, and we've gone over this, but just as a refresher, the seller that I'm trying to get the listing for was like, oh, I looked on Zillow or something, and they say my house is probably worth this amount, and that's like the median range. So I think it is probably pretty accurate. If the CMA was to show that it was significantly under that, like how do you talk around those estimates or other online estimates?
Yeah, so that's why pre-qual. So the last time we talked about listings, or the last video that we did, we talked about that pre-qualification questionnaire. And so that's where I'm going to get where they think their home is listed and how they came to it. So yeah, if they say, well, I think my home is worth X, Y, Z, and I'll say, great, where'd you come up with that price? And they say, oh, I found it, on Zillow or Redfin or whatever. I say, awesome. I really appreciate working with somebody who's willing to, look in and do some research for themselves. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to compare what Zillow or Redfin has to say with my system. Sometimes Zillow is spot on and sometimes Zillow is off. And I hope it's not in this situation. I think that's a great price for your home. And, you know, I hope that I can come up with an analysis that proves that. So I'm already kind of preemptively saying, you know, look, that's great. I find that it's awesome that you use these third-party websites and stuff like that. I'm going to come up with my own analysis. And if my analysis comes up that that house is worth less than what Zillow says it's worth, here's how I talk around that. So, you know, hey, Melissa, after going through the CMA, I still find that we have a discrepancy in where, you know, the home value should be. I know that you're looking at this and thinking that your home is worth, you know, 800,000. And, you know, honestly, what I'm coming to conclude is your home is probably worth more around that $700,000 range. So let me ask you, Melissa, are you looking to price your home to sell, or are you looking to price your home to net the most amount of money you can?
Both.
Both. Hey, that's a great answer. And why wouldn't you want to sell your house as fast as you can for the most amount of money that you can? So with this being said, why do you feel like Zillow is telling you your house is worth 800,000?
I assume that they just take what's sold around there and then they give a range, and then that number I gave you is kind of in the middle of that range. So it seems like they probably do the same thing as you guys do, just maybe pulling different houses.
They pull in different houses. Great, great. So what we should do, Melissa, is I would like to do a CMA with you. See, you're not wrong. Basically, Zillow is giving you information without showing you where they came up with that information. I'm coming in here with a CMA, and I didn't show you where I came up with that information. I just came in here with information. So if it's all right with you and you have a couple extra minutes, let's hop on my computer and let's do a live CMA for this. Okay. And then I would go through and I would literally do like I would do a base CMA with them.
Okay.
And here's what I mean by base. I would say, all right, so typically what I do is I will hone in on what your home, you know, is. So it has X amount of bedrooms, bathrooms, square foot, this and that, and this and that. First thing I want to do before we start to hone in on that, Melissa, is I want to get a feel for what's out there. What is selling and what's not selling. So you guys, I would probably do like a comp pool for the area without a lot of the criteria. I just want to see kind of where things are selling, right? Because if Melissa's thinking, if Zillow says her home is worth 800,000 and I can find some sold homes for 800,000 that are absolutely a better caliber, more than what she has to offer, you know, all the things that point in my direction, I'm going to show her that. But on the flip side, you guys, I could be wrong. And I might be able to find $800,000 properties that actually meet very similar to her criteria. And I don't know what I was doing, right? My assistant might have screwed it up. I might have done it really quickly. You know, who knows? But if I can find $800,000 properties, I'm going to say, you know what? Hey, I'm really glad we did this. You know, I'm leaning more and more towards where you feel like this should be listed. And then I just take their price and we list it, because if I'm literally seeing the data, then I'm just going to go with it. But if I'm not seeing the data, I'm just going to walk them through those questions. Hey, it looks like these houses over here are selling in the $800,000 range. Let's do this, Melissa. I'd love for you to tell me why how your home stacks up to these. And then as she gets going, well, they have an updated kitchen and I have an updated kitchen. Great. You know, hey, Melissa, I hate to say this, but you know, you guys both have beautifully updated kitchens, but you see how they have that big island and all of that countertop space? That's a big thing. So I'm going to guess that their kitchen might be a little bit bigger than yours. Let's see what the measurements are. And so I'll go through and I'll look at the measurements and I'll say, oh, wait, great. And you guys, if you guys have a showing kit in your car, you always have a tape measure. Go out and grab your tape measure and start measuring things. Do whatever is necessary to show them why Zillow is off. But the thing of it is it's not you debating it. It's not you arguing it. You're simply saying, look, Zillow didn't show you any information to prove that point. And I didn't show you any information to prove that point. But now I'm going to show you the information to prove that point, but it's not my point. It's the market's point. And that usually gets people off of there too. The other thing that I like to do, you guys, is I like to do this. So if I'm really getting stuck, let's just say I go do my comps and these people still They just absolutely still want to list it where Zillow lists it. I'm going to pretty much go back to what we were talking about in the CMA. Is it so far out of whack that I'm probably just not going to take this listing and I need to do one last ditch effort, or, you know, whatever? I'm still going to start to make those same determinations, whether it's a Zillow objection or just a pricing objection in its entirety, right? But if it's a Zillow objection, I love to do this. Type into Google Zillow Zestimates. And you're going to get this Zillow.com/Zestimates. That's what you're looking for, or right here. Am I sharing my screen? Yeah, cool. So you're going to go into here and then basically say, I really want you to just understand what a Zestimate is. All right. You see, in Denver, Colorado, 91% of home sales are within 5% of the 91% of home sales end up selling within 5% of that sales price from the Zestimate. So let me ask you, are you willing to go with someone who's off by at least 9% and within 5% of the sales price? You just want to show them these statistics right here. Within 5% of the sales price, right? 5%, that's a large number on 800,000. Can you guys hear me? You guys can hear me? Sweet.
Yep.
But go through here, make yourself aware of this, and then go over here to this, within 10%. So that means 2% of the time in Denver, Colorado, they are off between 5 and 10%. 5 and 10%. The median error range is 1.4%. So do all of those calculations. Start to show them how far off Zillow can be, and then scroll down here and have them read this too. And just do those calculations. Oh, Ricardo said gotta run. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Show them that Zillow openly admits that they're 8% of the time they're off within 5%. 5% of, I mean, gosh, that's a heck of a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
In some situations. What are you smirking at, Brady?
I watched Anchorman last night, and it keeps 60% of the time every time.
Oh, yeah.
Popping in my head. And Caleb said it earlier too.
This is a good class. Any other questions?
No, but I think that's huge, because then like it gives you a big advantage over them, because if they're off by that much and you can show how accurate you've been, then it's like, don't trust everything that Zillow gives you without saying that.
Yeah. My other talking point, oops, sorry. Somebody say something? Oh, it's Brady's dog is going wild in the background. The other thing that I talk about sometimes on Zillow, but you got to deliver this well, is, hey, I can appreciate what Zillow's doing. And what Zillow's doing is they're basically putting your house on a map, and they're drawing a radius around it. And what they're doing is they're coming up with an average, square footage price. And so as they come up with their average square footage price, then they'll go ahead and they'll populate things that way. You see, what I did in my comparable market analysis was I not only looked at square footage, but I looked at bedrooms and bathrooms and the neighborhood and very similar style to your home, right? Zestimate is comparing your ranch style home to bi-levels and quad levels and attached condos and townhomes. Anything that's sold within the area around your home, they're using all of that data to compile to bring up their price. You see, I really want to make sure that we hone in on price for the similar subject property. They're just using the average in that area for all different builds, all different square foots, all different everything, and taking an average and putting you into the average. That's why they can be off. And I think that's why in this situation, they seem to be off. And I hate to say this, Melissa, but I know they're off not in your favor. And that's why I want to know what you want to do.
Okay, I like that.
Cool. Any last minute things? All right, you guys got some more selling stuff to learn about. Go over to Jake's class there and let me know if you guys pick up any nuggets. Jake's a killer, but I've also been told we do things a lot differently. So it'd be cool to learn some new nuggets too.
Thanks,
See
Bruce.
you guys.